Okay.
Okay, perfect. Attendees are climbing very quickly right now, so if it's good with you both, we'll just give it 1 minute to let people get settled in. Okay, and it looks like attendees coming in is starting to level off now. So giving everyone the most time possible, we'll just go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for being here. My name's Heather James. I'll be moderating this session, and I'm glad to welcome for me, all the way across the world, depending on where you're joining us from. This is so exciting. Rowena McGregor and Lyndall Gunton from University of Southern Queensland. They will be presenting Exploring Reflective Practice to Develop an Evidence-Based Mindset in Libraries. And although we are in day 4 of the conference, before we get started, a few logistical items just to be clear. This session is being recorded. Captions are available during the session if you click on the Live CC button, either at the bottom or the top of your Zoom window. Thank you very much to Kathy Evans for providing these captions. Please use the Q&A feature for presentation questions. The chat is a great space to have back and forth conversation during the presentation, but if the questions don't get into the Q&A, then sometimes they get missed. So there will be 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. Rebecca Kuglich will also be monitoring the chat. So if you have any issues with tech or other questions or comments, please post them there. And Rebecca will be adding in some of the rainbow reminders into the chat. One of them will include the link for the collaborative resource document. Once again, if you have something that this session makes you think of, we're really trying to collate and collect all of those materials into that document. I know that there's also some sharing on Discord happening. As long as we definitely get all those into one collection somewhere. That document also is still in edit mode, so please don't share it on social media or other open spaces. Once it's finished at the end of the conference, it will be shared very widely. And of course, always the code of conduct is in place during the conference in all conference spaces and all conference adjacent spaces. So if you have not looked at it, or if it has fallen from your memory, please do revisit it. It's always in effect. And with that, I will turn things over to our presenters. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Heather. So good afternoon and an early good morning from Australia. Rowena and I have worked together at the University of Southern Queensland Library. Just as an introduction, Rowena is the Liaison Librarian for Health, and I've been the manager of the Liaison Librarian team there. And if you'd like to know more about us, our bios are in the Calm Shed. Before we start, we'd like to let you know that during our presentation, we'll be using Mentimeter when we invite you to participate in some reflective activities. And when that time comes, we'll share the link in the chat so you can participate from your devices. But before we get into our presentation, we'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement, or as we call it in Australia, an acknowledgement of country. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the different lands from which we gather. We would like to pay respect to our elders, past, present, and emerging, remembering that these have always been places of teaching, learning, and research. Rowena and I live and work on the lands of the Yugara, also known as Jagera or Yugarapul, and the Turrbal peoples. And in Australia at this point, we usually invite participants to share in the chat the traditional lands from which they are meeting. So please feel welcome to do so at this point if you would like. So today, Rowena and I will discuss the practice of reflection as one way of developing evidence-based thinking in libraries. Rowena will touch on the theory of reflective practice. I will provide a couple of examples of how we conduct reflective practice in our setting, and then we'll critically look at the outcomes of our endeavours and what we plan to do next. As I mentioned earlier, we'll also include an opportunity to participate in a reflective exercise with us. So learning as doing. We'll be focusing especially on two takeaways: using qualitative approaches to collecting evidence, such as reflective practice, doesn't need to be complicated or complex. And those kinds of initiatives that come about when a culture of evidence-based practice is established and cultivated, and when time and space is given to exploring and experimenting. So first, to situate University of Southern Queensland. We are a multi-campus regional university located in Southeast Queensland, Australia. We've been providing higher education for just over 50 years and have been a university for a little over 25 years, so just baby university. USQ was founded in the regional town of Toowoomba on the eastern coast of Australia as a local initiative to provide opportunities for young people from the region and outside urban areas. We've since grown to have an identity that is firmly rooted in the corridor west of the city of Brisbane, as well as the more rural and remote areas to our west. And we have 3 campuses to serve our community. And you can see that on the map on the screen. So Toowoomba is perched on top of a mountain range. That range is sometimes spoken about as a divide between decent internet access and poorer internet access, between aspiration for higher education and a lack of sense of belonging at university. USQ is very focused on changing that aspiration and bringing opportunity and optimism to the regions. From its inception, USQ sought to be an expert in distance and then online education. USQ has a cohort of more than 25,000 undergraduate students across a range of disciplines, including education, health, business, engineering, media, creative arts, and sciences. It is one of the largest providers of higher education to incarcerated students across the country, as well as students who are first in family to attend university and in underserved populations and minority groups. And with more than 75% of USQ students studying online before 2020, we were perhaps better equipped than some to take on the challenges of studying and teaching during COVID-19. And we have seen a further uptake of flexible study options by USQ students. And the picture on the screen is of our Toowoomba campus. So let's just touch a little on what makes USQ Library tick. Like others, we partner with academics to embed learning activities and that develop academic, digital, and information literacy skills that underpin successful learning outcomes and prepare graduates for work readiness and career progression. We're comfortable in the online space, delivering very successful online workshops and consultations for students who are used to online delivery. We seek to provide a supportive, connected, and intuitive experience for our students, no matter what their mode of study. USQ is also very active in the open education space, publishing open textbooks via our Pressbooks platform, including one that I'll let you know about shortly. We were the first member of the Open Textbook Network to join from the Southern Hemisphere. USQ Library currently employs 72 staff across our 3 USQ campuses, and they include librarians, library officers, academic skills advisors, and peer learning and makerspace coordinators. With the creation of an evidence-based practice coordinator role in 2017, USQ Library has worked to cultivate an evidence-based mindset in relation to decision-making, demonstrating library impact, and service improvement. And this is accompanied by a philosophy of staff development, focusing on purpose, play, and potential. And you can learn more about USQ Library on our website at the link that Rowena is sharing in the chat. So why talk about evidence-based practice? what does an evidence-based mindset look like in a library organisation? Evidence-based thinking and practice underpins the way that we work at USQ Library. We know that the appropriate gathering, analysis, and sharing of data can improve the effectiveness with which we develop understanding of our business and our clients and the way they experience the library, make informed decisions about use of resources, identify and then make service improvements, and demonstrate the value and impact of the library's activities and services to the wider university community, its leadership, and beyond. So as I mentioned, USQ Library is fortunate to have in our team the role of the Coordinator Evidence-Based Practice. This person is tasked with the responsibility of assisting library staff to understand how they already make use of data in their professional practice and to build knowledge and skills across the team to enhance the effectiveness of EBP, or evidence-based practice. As a library, we've engaged in a number of formal and informal awareness raising and professional development exercises to show how we already use EBP and how we could strengthen our skills in this area. In addition to reflective practice, we have experimented with other activities, such as encouraging library staff to engage in solo or collaborative research and scholarship, supporting library staff to present their learnings and experiences for other library staff to learn from, and at wider professional conferences and workshops. By sharing the outcomes, we were able to give back to the profession, which again is part of the ethos of evidence-based practice. We're also learning how to interpret and present data in different ways, using tools such as Power BI and Pressbooks to create and share meaning for a range of audiences. We've learned that these activities can be catalysts for us to identify opportunities for innovation and also to take stock, acknowledge and celebrate our efforts and achievements. And now I'm going to hand over to Rowena to talk about the theory of reflective practice.
Thank you, Lyndall, for introducing our context and how we understand evidence-based practice at USQ. While I like numbers, I really like the qualitative aspect of any kind of research and also of evidence-based practice. So reflective practice is kind of my area, I think. But what is it? So at its most basic, reflection is thinking about an event, obviously. However, it's a little bit more than that. So reflective practice, according to Miller and colleagues in 2020, is a structured examination and analysis of an event within the context that the event occurred. So the examination and analysis often uses some sort of reflective tool, and reflective practice is purposeful as it aims to improve outcomes by informing and perhaps changing practice, policy or decision-making within the context that that event occurred. So it's a pretty broad definition, and we're going to look at some specific academic library examples next. So I'm going to provide 4 examples that I've taken. They're journal articles, I'll call them reports, and they demonstrate how reflection can look different across different contexts and also provide some indication of that variety of purposes that reflection can serve. I'll start with an Australian example. It's another USQ one, and then I'm going to move to the US. And Lyndall's going to add the report details in the chat, so you can follow that up if you'd like to. Okay, the first report that I'll present was written by Thorpe and some colleagues in 2021, and it describes how at USQ Library, all library staff are required to nominate a form of reflection as part of their application for professional development. And this is because they've found that reflection following training increases the likelihood that the training is going to be meaningful to the participant and perhaps impactful to their future professional practice. Regarding a tool, management has provided a flexible list of suggestions, and staff are welcome to offer ideas that resonate with them. And this has resulted in quite a plethora of reflective actions, and these include staff webinars, blog posts, reports, and articles that have been published in professional journals. So that's USQ. Now we'll move to the US, and this is the first of 2 US librarian teaching teams published on their use of reflective practice. So Regan et al. In 2020 described how a US teaching team working within a credit-bearing course, they wanted to become learner-focused. And so the teaching team developed some context-specific teaching prompts. So that was their reflective tool. And this elicited self-feedback that could be collated and synthesized, thus increasing the power of each individual librarian's reflection and allowing the team to progress towards their goal. The second teaching team did something a little different. And this was written by Wagner and colleagues in 2021. And these teaching librarians, they wanted to work together to improve the collection of actionable feedback on their teaching. So the team created a reflective tool to fit their purpose. And this was a series of reflective questions that guided their shared analysis of student feedback and allowed them to improve the kind of questions that they were asking of students to get that actionable feedback. The final example was provided by Singh and Mahaptra in 2021. And this is the story of library students reflecting on episodes that shaped their cultural identity. And this was an accessible part of a library and information science course. Students were provided a structure in the form of an identity narrative. So they wrote this narrative and then reflected upon it as part of a course assignment. The goal was that the students were to move towards cultural competence. Together, these reports all documented the use of reflection within a context to move the authors towards a goal: better returns from professional development, refocus of teaching, collection of evidence, and development of personal competencies. The reports, I think, demonstrate that reflection is useful in an academic library and also highlight the skills and the time required to practice reflection. And so with that in mind, we'll look at how we sort of provide these opportunities at USQ to create those skills and really make explicit that the library values reflective practice as much as possible so that people feel comfortable to set that time aside to both learn the skills and also actually reflect in a useful way. So I'm going to talk about a couple of examples and Lyndall will talk about a third example. And just in a moment, we're going to have some fun with Mentimeter. But first, I'll talk about the first of my examples, and that is the evidence-based practice newsletter. Okay, so this is published monthly as part of our evidence-based practice remit, and individuals and teams can contribute an issue. You just have to put your hand up to do so. And in January, the Health Learning Advisor, Kate Derrington, and I created a themed list of resources on reflective practice as an issue of this newsletter. And the resources included videos, blog posts, journal articles, books, all sorts of things, with the aim of providing content in a variety of formats so that there might be something for everyone. And Lyndall's going to pop a link to the newsletter in the chat now. The second example is training in the what, so what, now what model of reflective practice. And that's what we're going to do in a moment. So the particular training was scheduled for early in 2022, and I'd hoped that I could talk about it more fully now, more meaningfully, I suppose. However, natural disasters and COVID-related issues have delayed it to the end of May. Nevertheless, Kate and I designed this voluntary 1-hour interactive workshop for any interested library staff. And the session will orientate the participants to reflective practice and then allow them to practice using a well-developed reflective tool, the what, so what, now what model, to interrogate a fictional scenario. And I'm now going to give you an opportunity to try this yourself using Mentimeter. Before we start though, we'll sort out the Mentimeter side of things. So Lyndall is now going to give a link in the chat to the Mentimeter, and you might also like to, of course, use the QR code. And so you can, on your phone or device, do that, and this will allow you to respond to the questions I'm going to ask. So I'll just give people a moment to set up. And if you'd like to, the first few people, once you're in Mentimeter, just give us a message in the chat. That would be appreciated. And then we'll start talking about the scenario and what we do next. Excellent. Thanks, Danelle. Thanks, Jenny. Most awesome to know. Oh, I can relax now. Fantastic. Awesome. Now, if you're stuck, don't worry, just put something in the chat and the tech folk will help you with that. So the scenario. We have here, it's written on the screen, but we have, this is fictional. An academic presented at the library help desk and angrily noted that several textbooks had been deselected, as we say, or weeded in the common parlance. The books are required this week. Now, the help desk staff tried to be helpful and explained the library deselection policy to the academic, but this did not help at all. The academic shouted at the library staff and left in a rush. The library staff member is now upset and feeling a bit nervous about returning to the help desk. Before we go to the Mentimeter and think about the questions, just read that scenario and perhaps start to consider the perspective of one or more of the people involved in this scenario. Now, it could be the people that are talked about directly here, or it could be other people who are going to be impacted, bystanders, students enrolled in the course, and so on. So just read that through with that perspective in mind. And then we shall go to the first of our questions. If you're in Mentimeter, you'll probably see the scenario. And when I move slides, now you should see the first of our questions and be able to vote. Excellent. People are still saying they're in. So our question is, from the perspective of one of the people impacted by the event, what happened? So in a sentence or two, you might like to say academic, blah, 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 or so on, just if you think that's necessary in your answer, just to specify that. And if there's a sentence or two you've got. The voting has to be, thank you. It was open before, but these things happen. Thank you, Ashley. So that's excellent. I'm just going to start a countdown now of 30 seconds. And this is great. We've got all sorts of different answers here. Oh, library doesn't care about my needs. Yeah, that's painful to see. Yes, library appears to have ruined plans. Academic not able to get the what they need. They were surprised by the collection of decisions. That's right. And that's right. So you can see here, I'm hoping that not only did, you got the opportunity to, think about what happened, the value of doing it in a group. You can see that people have got different perspectives. I'm being yelled at and I don't know what to do. That is wonderful for the library staff member. And having been on the help desk, yes, I feel that. So this is right. So we've got all sorts of people being impacted, okay, and different perspectives. Okay, so we might move now to the second question. As I move, if you're in Mentimeter, some people might move automatically, others might need to. There's a little blue button that appears on the top and it says the host has moved. Yes, all right, this is great. People are in. So again, just from the perspective of one person, you can pop up a answer to the question, so what? What are the consequences? Yes, someone's going to quit. Yes, I feel traumatized. I feel traumatized. Resentment. Many different consequences from the different perspectives. And again, what I'm getting here is that value of lots of people looking at this from lots of perspectives. So people are afraid, upset. I guess they're not trusting the library anymore. Resentment, lots of bad feelings are coming up through here, which is interesting. Okay, so now we've got people who are impacted sort of a thing about what happened. And now we've got, well, so what? Why does it matter? That's fantastic. All right, and we'll move to the next. Thank you for everyone who already answered. We'll move to the next question, which is, now what? What are some changes we might make to avoid, if we can, or reduce the impact of these consequences in the future? Now, there were lots of different consequences. So if you feel you might need to, in your answer, you know, specify that. Never again. Sorry, that is so funny. We're just in the midst of a huge weeding exercise that maybe could have happened a few years ago. All right. Yes, we need better communication. So people in charge should be sure that the instructions are clear, reviewing policies, improving communications and so on, notifying faculty. So communication. Excellent. Encouraging professors to put the books they need on reserve. Brilliant. So again, we can see lots of different great ideas coming from, you know, having been informed by all those perspectives and thinking about, you know, this from lots of different angles. And this is fantastic. So this exercise is something that we will be doing for sure, now that we've tested it with you instead of the other way around, in our library training. And thank you again for all that participation. That's fantastic. Really much appreciated. Okay, so thank you, everyone. I'm going to pass the baton back to Lyndall, and she's going to discuss how we used a form of reflective practice to report on our engagement with the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Thanks, Rowena. Yes, so UN SDGs. First of all, what are the UN SDGs and why are libraries interested in the UN SDGs? The United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development identifies 17 goals as a shared blueprint for peace, prosperity, people, and the planet. And the reason that we're interested in the goals really is because the UN SDGs have at their heart an aim to ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality and in a healthy environment. And this aligns very beautifully with USQ Library's aim to enable our students to develop the confidence, resilience, and skills to reach their potential as engaged, informed, and productive citizens, and for staff to access the tools, supports, and systems to reach their potential as world-class teachers, researchers, and professionals. And libraries of all types are about supporting people to reach their potential, as are the UN SDGs. The SDGs can be used by academic libraries as a benchmarking tool, like a lot of universities are doing, and as a way to challenge ourselves around the sorts of targets, frameworks, and KPIs that we use to communicate value and impact, both internally to our staff and to others. And you can learn more about the UN SDGs at the link that Rowena is sharing in the chat. In 2019, the Council of Australian University Librarians held a discussion about whether libraries were using the SDGs as a tool or framework for reporting or demonstrating impact. And our evidence-based coordinator decided to compare our library goals and activity outcomes to the SDGs to see where we were creating positive impact in relation to the goals. It became clear that the results generated could be a means of demonstrating the value and impact of the library to the university leadership and community. And as we progressed through the exercise, we realised we needed a means of communicating this to the wider library and potentially beyond. Our approach has been an experimental one to try things and embrace a culture of learning and give people the opportunity to come up with ideas and try new ways of collecting and sharing evidence. Safe learning culture and evidence-based mindset provides a space in which to be creative and reflective. This approach has evolved and will continue to do so. So we chose a reflective practice approach in mapping the activities, project activities and outcomes in a calendar year to the SDGs. We started out by asking library staff about which goals they considered most relevant to the activities and services we deliver. As the coordinator of evidence-based practice, I facilitated conversations with the 12 members of the library leadership team. The conversations helped to map existing business as usual activities, project outcomes, and annual performance targets against the goals. We added to this by bringing in and highlighting the voices of staff from across the library as narrators of stories about the activities and outcomes that were part of that year. We did this by inviting library staff to reflect on their work and how it relates to the SDGs. The coordinator of evidence-based practice developed a storytelling template that was shared with library staff who were encouraged to use the structure to write their story. This template is licensed for Creative Commons, and you can download it and use it from the link that Rowena is sharing in the chat. Some staff did this as an individual task. Others took the initiative to work collaboratively. While some offered to do this, as we went about compiling the content, we also identified gaps and then approached library staff to request that they contribute by writing the story about a specific activity or project. This required a relatively low level of commitment, making it easy for staff to contribute. We explored ways to communicate this internally and to share more broadly and externally. For the publishing of Library Stories of 2020, we turned to the Pressbooks platform because we already use it. It is openly and freely accessible. It further demonstrates our commitment to making our content open. It is easy to include links and content in formats other than text, and it would be another means of drawing attention to our full catalogue of open texts. Finally, we reflected on the process as a whole to consider what this tells about what we value, what we're good at, and what we might want to do more of. Next slide shows one example of how USQ Library has contributed to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 1 of ending poverty. Staff looked at how the library used e-texts and open text to transform student learning online during COVID. USQ Library's physical library collections were closed on the 25th of March 2020 to limit the spread of COVID-19. The library clearly communicated to the USQ community the move to operating exclusively online while campus libraries were temporarily closed. An immediate and pressing challenge was to ensure that accessibility to textbooks was maintained over this time. There was a need to communicate with stakeholders, advocate for access, and make informed decisions based on analytics and knowledge of licensing and copyright allowances. In a climate where students were experiencing a heightened sense of stress and uncertainty, these strategies sought to relieve some financial burdens associated with purchasing textbooks and access to other study resources and information sources. Student and staff feedback indicated much appreciation for this increased interim availability of information required for study programs. Our Associate Director for Content collaborated with the Open Education Practice Manager, our Content Acquisitions Manager, and liaison librarians to piece together the story of how this evolved and what unfolded. This reflective practice has fueled our commitment to progressing this, which has seen a further uptake of open text as course readings and funding opportunities to adapt and create open texts and open education resources to embed into USQ courses. One example of this is the adaptation of a text to create academic success, a library staff authored open access publication designed to help students on their university journey. You can read more about this example and others in Library Stories of 2020 at the link that Rowena is sharing in the chat. There are a number of outcomes associated with adopting the UN SDGs as a framework for reporting our library activities and demonstrating our impact. These were on individual, team, and organisational levels. We found that existing services, collections, and projects correlated to 8 initially of the 17 SDGs. Activities were mapped to these 8 goals and reported to university leadership. As an exercise, the high-level mapping activity and reporting was an educative and awareness-raising opportunity, initially focused only on library staff. It introduced our staff to the SDGs' relevance to the university and academic library contexts. Library staff became more aware of the broader cultural and social implications of their roles. It provided library staff with evidence-based ways in which to see themselves and where their work makes a meaningful impact on others. It enabled staff to identify where their professional and personal values intersect with the SDGs. And as a result, some library teams and individual staff aligned their own professional goals with the SDGs. Collaborative reflection and contribution has given rise to suggestions for improvement, identification of gaps to address, and focusing of priorities as ways to support the goals in the future. Using Pressbooks has provided us with access to analytics about the publication. And since it was published in June 2021, it has been viewed more than 1,100 times. We are also able to know which chapters are most popular, how users access it, in what format they download it, and where users are accessing it from around the world. The communication strategy led to conversations that increased university leaders' awareness of the SDGs, as well as the value and impact of USQ Library in improving access to information, and the library's role in transforming the lives of USQ students and community. USQ Library has been able to demonstrate how our knowledge and information infrastructures enable student achievement and research excellence. This work has provided an opportunity for USQ to engage more broadly across the Australian academic library sector and the international library profession. Library staff have published journal articles and papers, presented at conferences, and contributed to sector-wide reports about this topic, and we look forward to continuing to do so. And now I'm going to hand back to Rowena to talk about what's going to happen next.
Whoops. I got ahead of myself. Thanks, Lyndall. Okay, so what next? At the library level, the whole library, we really want to continue with reflective practice within that evidence-based practice remit. And we want to continue being brave enough to look at what we've done and be happy to put things aside if upon reflection it no longer suits us, or we realize that it didn't have the impact that we desired. One area we've already identified we'd like to improve is to make more visible the voices and experiences of students. So we're really looking forward to strengthening that aspect of the work. And with the Sustainable Development Goals, that could look like asking the students about the impact that some of the activities that we've undertaken have made. So we could then reflect upon that with the aim of iteratively doing better. Would be lovely. With the reflective practice training, we're going to, Kate and I, offer that training at the end of May, and then reflect on that and tailor further opportunities for professional development and support for reflective practice, depending on the need of the cohort that arrives. We've opened it to the whole library, we've sent the invitations out, and we're getting people from all different roles and levels of employment who are interested, which is lovely. So that's going to be, I guess holistic might be one word for it. Looking forward to that. And we're going to ask people too, perhaps depending on, you know, the mood and so on, to share vignettes about their experiences of using the what, so what, now what tool, with the aim of collating that into a co-authored publication, perhaps a journal article or a conference paper, and give people the opportunity. That's another thing of evidence-based, I think, reporting. So give people who might not normally see themselves as academic writers or scholarly an opportunity to participate at that level. All right. So the takeaways for the session. We hope we made clear that using qualitative approaches to collecting evidence, such as reflective practice, it doesn't have to be complicated or complex, but it does require time and thought and perhaps skills as well. So people need a place to start. And that's why we've developed all these different supports. The second point was that reflective practice can be grown, it's possible, and a culture of evidence-based practice where time and space is dedicated to exploring and experimenting, and I think a safe place as well, like it's expected that we might be vulnerable, and failure is not seen necessarily as a bad thing, that sort of thing. So it's possible for this culture to grow, as we've experienced. All right, and then we've got one final Mentimeter question before we finish. So maybe Lyndall might pop the link back in the chat. And if you'd like to just reflect on a takeaway that you might have taken, it could be something that you've learned today and you've considered for the first time, but it could also be something that you're already doing and that you'd like to share with the group. So let's see. If you're already in Mentimeter, you might need to push that little button to move forward. Yeah, what now? What is awesome. And if you're taking that forward, just, I hate to say this as a librarian, but I will Google it or look in that sway that Lyndall gave the, so that was the evidence-based practice newsletter on reflective practice. That's got lots of resources that support what now what, including how to, examples of it being done and so on. You're building in time. Yep, that's really important. Just applying it, that's great. Yet reviewing your own professional development notes and learnings, because some of that could be useful to share, that's right. And perhaps then it might make it easy to take it on. We've all done professional development and it's been so exciting and wonderful, but then a week later it sort of gets a little lost. So that's really powerful. Fantastic. All right, there's so many. So I'm just scrolling up a bit so I can see. Setting clear expectations. Yep. Yes, evidence-based and reflective practice. I love that. The marriage of, I tend to think of evidence-based as being the numbers and the stats, but incorporating the qualitative element can make it very meaningful, make it come alive, especially to people like me who just love stories and the people and the relational aspect of the work, which I think a lot of librarians are. I mean, that's why we're here, I think, to help people, a lot of us. Yep, storytelling, very engaging too. Yes. And less daunting, that there is such a diverse way of expressing reflective practice. It doesn't have to be a publication. It can be lots of different things. All right, so we might move on to our final few slides. So the references are here. Most of them, we've provided them as links through the chat, which can be, I believe, saved. And we'll also make sure that these slides are available to everybody too. And finally, we'd really like to thank all of the staff and students at USQ, past and present, who have contributed to the various reflective exercises that I've undertaken. So that's most of the library have contributed in some way to a reflective practice and to the library's culture of evidence-based practice in that way. Lyndall, was there anything else you'd like to say to sort of summarize everything or finish the...
No, thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you about our experiences with reflective practice and evidence-based practice. And we can see there's a few questions in the Q&A. So happy to move on to that.
Yes, the Menti answers can be shared. Let me think about that. I am going to, I'm new to Mentimeter, so I know that I can find that link though. So I'll definitely do that.
Yes. And we've got, can we sign up to receive updates to the EVP newsletter? It's currently emailed directly to staff, but we can talk to our evidence-based coordinator about options for making a subscription function available. So we can follow up with Emilia about that.
Wonderful.
Rowena, there's the question, what pushback, if any, have you, library admin, received to engaging in reflective practice?
Oh, yes. Okay. So from the perspective of when Kate and I were pitching the training, there were two different things. Firstly, staff who are the library officers, they're the people who are on the help desk. I'm trying to think, they're not the lowest rung, that is not the right way to say it. They're on the front line. Some of them felt a bit worried that it was going to be too hard or something too academic or involve writing or role plays or things that they would find difficult or confronting. So the ones that I kind of, asked before, while we were sort of working out what we wanted to do and how, how to also to market it, I suppose, we had to address that it wasn't going to be anything beyond anyone's capability. And we were going to start at the beginner level with a tool that you could scale up if you wanted, or just use, as it is. The other concern that we had was from the manager of a number of academic staff who work in the library. And she was concerned that it might impact on work that these academic staff were already doing in their own area and their own kind of practice that they had established. And just to make sure, she wanted to know that it wasn't going to be something that we were imposing on them in addition. And so that's what we were very clear to make sure that it was voluntary, and that managed that. But I think with the help of the evidence-based practice manager and also our top boss, Carmel, who is very supportive of evidence-based practice, it's throughout everything. I mean, it was fairly easy to address those concerns. So that was good.
I think also that the reason that we developed the storytelling template in relation to the library stories of 2020 was to give people a structure, to prompt them with some basic questions so that it would give them the ability to respond rather than start from scratch without any cues. And that really, some people, drafted something and sent it through. Is this what you're looking for? And we were trying to work at that at the same time. So it was something that we developed together with our narrators. And as people realized how simple it was and that there was no expectation of writing in necessarily a formal or scholarly way, as you will see in the, if you've linked to the Pressbooks publication, it is quite informal in language. People became more confident and put their hand up to participate. It was also a way for them to see their own words and their name in publication, which a lot of the staff hadn't ever done before. And so that was something that was pleasing to them as well. Okay, so what made you interested in engaging with the SDGs? Well, as I mentioned, there is a close alignment with the values, as we consider them, of libraries and the services that libraries offer, particularly, not exclusive, obviously, but particularly in academic libraries. We had seen other libraries across the sector start to look at these as a barometer to consider where our services and activities make positive impact in those spaces. We were aware that higher education institutions across the world were putting their hand up to be involved in the Times Higher Education rankings in regards to the UN SDGs. And while a university isn't directly involved in that yet, we wanted to contribute to the awareness raising of that in the hope that they would move towards that. And those conversations are certainly happening. So we feel really pleased that we are participating in those conversations, but also making a positive impact in drawing the wider university's awareness to the importance of this. As we believe that our university's values align with some of those UN SDGs really well. So while it's not a required framework for us to report on, it's something that that we felt that was important to do, and helped our library staff, as I listed those things, helped them to understand where their role has meaning in that space as well. And the alignment with professional and personal values resonated quite well with library staff. Yes. Someone's asked if we can share our email addresses. I thought that they were in Shed, but if they're not, we can put that into the chat. Yeah, Rowena, are you happy to?
I'm happy to do that. And I think we've liberally sprinkled our Twitter handles.
Yes, please feel welcome. Yes, the slides I think will be shared, and obviously the recording. So we're very happy to do that. We are on Twitter if you want to connect with us. I didn't check, but was the template only used by library staff? Did you give it out to others? To like the single parent? No. So those were conversations that we really had with our clients. But the idea, as Rowena mentioned, in our next iteration would be to provide a similar template to our clients and those who would like one to use to join us in narrating those stories. So that's obviously for our next iteration, but we could see as we were doing this version that it was really important to begin planning to include the voices of our clients, the voices of our academics, our students, our researchers, as well as our library staff into that space. Okay, so yeah, not in Shed. Thanks, Rowena, for sharing that.
I didn't have your email to share, Lyndall. I wasn't sure which one.
Okay. Yep. I will add it in there.
And the Menti results. Okay, I'll work on the Menti results. Thank you for that feedback. Let's see what I can do. Manage results. I think I can export them. All right, I'm downloading them, folks. I'll see what I can do.
And tell them to try the box on the bottom left. The results are now populated in the slide. Okay. Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Yes. That's all the questions that were in the Q&A section. But yes, do feel welcome to contact us if you do have any further questions. As we did say and link to the storytelling template, the library stories, they are Creative Commons. The storytelling template is Creative Commons licensed, so you're very welcome to use it, adapt it, remix it for your own purposes. It's just what we found was useful, that we would love to continue the conversation and hear about, if you use them, how you find them.
Okay, regarding the results, I have downloaded them into Excel, which is great.
Okay.
If you would like a copy, it might be best to email me, I think, because sharing them, hang on, might be able to share them.
Is there a way to share them, Heather, beyond?
From my computer, I have to save it. Sorry, people, for my brain working a little slowly. I'll just have to save it onto my computer and then.
Yeah. There is another question that's just popped up. Any advice on getting started with evidence-based practice in a library that does not do it in any way? Yes, I guess the way that it has evolved at USQ has been due to the innovative foresight of our university librarian who wanted to develop that mindset. So a role was created with that specific intention. Unlike other similar roles in other academic libraries, it wasn't for the purpose of collecting the data and reporting on the data. The role was really with the intention of cultivating that awareness of what library staff were already doing that was evidence-based, and raising awareness about ways that they could strengthen those skills. So I think that has evolved gradually. I would say that from my experience in that role, the best place to start is reading. is to equip yourself with the knowledge about what evidence-based practice in a library environment means, what it could do if you have a manager or university librarian or someone who could engage with you in that space, to share that reading more broadly with your library leadership team, to encourage thinking around that space, to gain that group understanding and build that knowledge, build that impetus, I guess, towards going down that direction, and to walk the talk in your own practice. To one of the parts of the role of the coordinator that I enjoyed the most was having conversations with people who weren't quite sure what it meant for them in their role, and would walk away feeling like, oh, actually, I do some of that. I do a lot of that. It's just that I didn't think of it in that way. And then it really framed how they thought going forward about what they could do in addition, or how they could frame what they did, how they could report on it. So there's a lot of conversation on spaces like Twitter with people who are engaged in that space. You can look at the Evidence-Based Practice Journal. That's I might have to look up that link. It's a open access journal that you can look at. I think that's published in Canada or from Canada. There's quite an engaged community, particularly in the academic library space, that I would encourage you to look up and ask questions and join in.
And just while Lyndall's thinking about the next question, I've managed to stick put a link to the copy of that, the results, into the Zoom chat.
Thanks, Rowena.
Amy.
Yay.
I'm feeling very proud, everybody.
This is a great question from Sharon. Cultivating time for reflection can be challenging. In addition to the intentional activities and initiatives shared, what other strategies has your organisation used to ensure that staff have time to engage in critical reflection on a regular basis? Yes, tricky. Some of the things we've tried haven't been successful. We set up a library staff regular fortnightly time for writing and reflection, and a few people took advantage of that time to work together, and but it wasn't something that we kept going. It is about team managers regularly sharing or giving their teams permission to take that time to do the reading, to share readings, to encourage time to think, read, reflect, and conversation that follows up about that is important to then get them to do that full circle of coming back and closing that loop. Rowena?
From a staff perspective, I would say just keep telling people as well. Like the first time you hear it, you don't believe it. The second time you're in the middle of the busiest time of semester. The third time, you know, you're away. And then the fourth time you hear it and then you start. So, and the other thing is encouraging people. So we have a weekly kind of all staff, it's just an email that goes out from the university librarian. And in that she notes any accomplishments and so on. So I think, and she uses that sometimes to address these sort of matters as well. So coming from the top, I think is good. And rewarding people in that way, or mentioning them, acknowledging them as well at all different levels of staff, so they can see it's for everybody. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Hopefully
I have to say the impact too, if we've got 1 minute of time, is that for me, I've become much more confident in just giving things a go and pitching an idea and, you know, trying it. A pilot, that was my most favorite word for 3 years in a row. I'm going to run a pilot, Carmel. I'm going to do this. And she's like, yes, okay. And just, you'll need to, you know, and she then helps me set up everything nicely, or whoever my manager is at the time, to make the most likely that it will be a success, and how I need to report on that and so on, whatever help that I needed to sort of sort that out into something manageable for the library. And yeah, so I'm really willing to give things a go, always trying to think about new ways of doing things, solve problems, It's really great and it makes life fun. Yeah, fail with grace, that's right, with a smile. Oh, well. And look at me,
Yeah.
just then now figuring out how to, you know, do the Excel spreadsheet and stick it into Zoom. I haven't done that before, but I'm willing to give it a go and keep smiling and take encouragement from the group. Thank you. So I think that's kind of a reflection of all that.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you all so much. Thank you to everyone who participated through the chat and the questions. There was a lot of great resources shared back and forth. And thank you for being with us. We all hope that you have very comforting, rejuvenating food or caffeinated beverages waiting for you after this. So thank you so much. Great session. And please don't forget about the feedback survey and SCED, and the recording will be available on the collated conference collection. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.